recording with Mr. Ed Dowd, author of Cause Unknown, for episode 1072 on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 at 4:03 p.m. Eastern time. And I will upfront have to apologize for the false advertising. I'll have upfront have to apologize for the false advertising. Dr. Malone was going to join us, but the last second had a scheduling conflict and cannot join us. So if Dr. Malone's in the thumbnail and you're wondering where he is, he's not here. It's just me and Mr. Dowd. But Ed Dowd, please introduce yourself, sir.
Tommy, thanks for having me on today. Honored to be here. Ed Dowd, former BlackRock portfolio manager. Spent my whole career on Wall Street. I'm just a pattern recognition guy, and unfortunately, I'm monitoring a disturbing trend in all-cause mortality, excess all-cause mortality, and disabilities. And I went before Senator Ron Johnson in December, and I laid out the data, which at this point is irrefutable, that the employed in this country seem to be dying more so than the general U.S. population, as well as being disabled. My investment thesis, that's what I do. I come up with a thesis. My thesis is it's the vaccines due to mandates. And, we can go through that. And if it's not the vaccines, what is it? And why is the media and the establishment and the health authorities not talking about it?
Yeah. And that's kind of something that no one likes to address, is that I think you are, no, I am. I'm open to any explanation. I mean, maybe it really is. I don't think it is, but maybe it really is climate change. Maybe it really is microplastics. I don't know. But it seems odd. It seems statistically impossible that it just so happens that we see this 40% increase in all-cause mortality right around the same time they roll out an untested experimental vaccine technology that's never been tried on humans before. For just so my listeners understand, could you maybe explain your past on Wall Street and kind of how you developed any sort of pattern recognition that eventually led to this?
Yeah, so Wall Street is a simple place. You try to get information and recognize patterns before everybody else, you accumulate the stock before everybody knows, and then once you accumulate the stock, then you run around Wall Street telling people what you discovered, hope to convince them, and then if you're right, over time, people will pile into the stock, and you make a lot of money. So you got to be early, you got to be right, and you got to be ahead of the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and all your peers. So anybody who's good at this game operates with imperfect information. And my whole career I spent trying to figure out when something was when perception was. I live between the space of perception and reality. So perception is Y, reality is X, and I try to capitalize on the reality before the perception of the herd changes. Okay, so why am I here? Why am I talking about all cause mortality and disabilities? Because those are big numbers. It's data. I analyze data. And early in the vaccination program, I had a thesis something was going on. And why did I think that? It's because there were anecdotes popping up. In 2020 on Maui, no one I knew personally got COVID. No one died in 2020 on Maui. Then anecdotes started popping up. People started having strange illnesses, injuries, and/or the death you heard about the uncle or this or that. So I started hearing about that, and that piqued my interest. I knew a couple things about the vaccine. I personally didn't take it because I knew three things. It was untested, new technology that never been really tested on humans, and all the rats and monkeys died. So I knew that. I also knew Operation Warp Speed sounded like a disaster because anything rushed can be, rushed to the detriment of those who are taking the damn thing. And then thirdly, I knew it takes 7 to 10 years for safety studies before they actually put a vaccine in someone's arm, 7 to 10 years of data before it's rolled out. So with those three things, I didn't take it. And I thought everybody would, kind of have my line of thinking. But I saw that there was a tremendous psyop propaganda campaign, and we've come to find out the military was involved. It's now leaking that this is a military grade psyop on the whole globe. So I just said, well, I'm not going to take it. Heard about the deaths and injuries anecdotally. That's just anecdotally. But one thing I know about statistics is this: if it was safe and effective, forget effective, safe. If it was safe, there are adverse events and there are deaths and injuries, but they're so rare in a tested vaccine 7 to 10 years. I shouldn't be hearing about them. I shouldn't be hearing one anecdote, but I was hearing several and many. So that made me come up with my thesis. And then, unfortunately, over time, I knew if I was right, it would start showing up in different databases like insurance companies, um, disabilities, and also the all cause statistical CDC mortality and the Eurostat data. And so we have the data. And my team, I have a firm now, Finance Technologies. We've been working on this vaccine issue, raising money for a hedge fund. But before we do that, we want to save lives, and the data's in. Excess mortality is up across the board. It seemed to explode in 21 and 22. There was a mix shift from old people dying in 2020 due to COVID, or I would say at this point it's pretty well understood that it was prevention of early treatment. So a lot of those deaths could have been prevented in 2020. And then in 2021 and 22, there was a huge mix shift from old to young. And just to give you one example, in 2020, there were 40,000 excess millennial deaths in 2020, all cause mortality. Then in 2021, there were 60,000. So 50% increase for millennials for a disease we know doesn't kill the young. And we knew that in 2020. So something's happening. And I obviously blame the vaccines, and we can go into each data piece as we go through the conversation. But there's a temporal relationship between the mandates and the vaccines, especially amongst the millennials, especially amongst healthy group life policyholders. And these numbers are not my numbers. It's a Society of Actuaries. They did a survey that came out in August. And 40% excess mortality for ages 25 through 64 across the board. And what we know about group life people is that they are much healthier than the general US population. The insurance industry knows this. They did a study in 2016 that laid that out. They die at a third to 40% the rate of the general population in any given year. And why is that? Well, it's because they're employed, they're showing up to work, they have access to the best health care, they're in the prime of their life. So and that relationship flipped in 2021, 40% excess mortality in this elite subset of people that get these policies. You get them when you join a Fortune 500 company or a mid-sized company. It's a freebie benefit. You sign it when you onboard, and you get 1 or 2 times your salary. They experience 40%. The general U.S. population experienced 32%. So something flipped in 21. And then you go into the disability data, it's even more stark. But if you want to ask a question, we can talk about the insurance industry first, and then we can go to disabilities. But when I went before Senator Ron Johnson, the mic drop moment was when I said, the employed of our country seem to be dying and being disabled faster than everybody else. I blame mandates. If it's not mandates, what is it? We have a national security issue. That's it.
If it's a national security issue, and if it is coming out that it's a military program, that DARPA from 2012, and then the P3, the ADEPT program, I think the question then, and I've been hesitant about this, and I didn't get the vaccine either. I mean, kind of same reason as you. I just remember I was literally working at a liquor store. I just read an article, and it was like, yeah, it doesn't stop transmission. And I was like, oh, well, then I'm not going to get. It's kind of more so just like a matter of, well, I'm not going to go take 10 minutes and drive to the vaccine place. I was kind of being lazy. I was like, and I thought it was just so matter of fact. And I remember at work, someone asked me, like, why are you getting it? And I was like, well, it doesn't stop transmission and you can still contract it. So it just kind of seems like a waste of time. And yeah, that's in hindsight, retroactively, I can see the psyop, because there's almost like a frothing at the mouth of, why won't you get this? Why won't you trust the science? But as these kind of hazy images in the rearview mirror coalesce and become more clear, and we can see the actors involved, and be it that it's a DARPA program, be it that it's a military psyop program, or from your data, cause unknown, or to now the Twitter files, or even just last week the Project Veritas video with about Pfizer. I have to start at least opening my mind to going, all right, well, it's all so insane, and like every rational idea is slowly starting to seem like they come up short. I think the question that's on everyone's mind, and the question that I've avoided for a long time because it's just kind of too fantastical, is this intentional? Is this not, if everything that we thought was an accident or a coincidence turns out to be a highly precise and planned rollout? Well, at this point, I'm looking at the Swiss watch and all the gears moving. And if one of the gears is that there's a 40% increase in all-cause mortality, at a certain point, you have to kind of sheepishly don the tinfoil hat and go, all right, is this intentional? And that's, no one wants to say it. It makes your stomach turn. You feel, you kind of get the hair standing up saying it. And I don't want to put you on the spot because obviously you don't have the answer. None of us do. But if I could ask for your opinion, and you can pass on the question as well, do you think this is intentional?
Why don't we do this?
Sure.
Let's put a pin in my opinion. I'll give my
Okay.
opinion later.
All right.
Uh, the the book I wrote, Cause Unknown: The Epidemic of Sudden Death in 21 and 22, left out the who and the why
Sure.
intentionally.
Sure. Because you
Now,
just want to examine the actual what is happening and not.
what is happening? And I want it, first of all, you got to remember, things have come out recently, but when I wrote the book, no one was even aware there was a problem
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean, a lot of people that I know there's a problem, but I'm in an echo chamber. So my goal was to highlight that this is real, it's happening. You're not crazy for things. Sudden athletic deaths have increased exponentially. You're not insane. I lay it out in the book. Then I go into the metadata and I talk about the insurance statistics I just shared with you. And then I also go into the disability data, which is bigger than the excess deaths and more tragic in many ways for all of us because it's taking out more people. So deaths, as tragic as they are, some things are worse than death. And being disabled and not able to work the rest of your life is one of them. And being a burden on your family and the psychological impact that has. But they're both tragic in their own unique way. Well, the disability data is this. Since February of 21, we saw through most of all of 22, we saw a 3 standard deviation rate of change in the disability numbers. And that happens 0.03% of the time on Wall Street. So it's what we call trend change. So if you look at the disability numbers, they were basing around 29 to 30 million for the prior 4 or 5 years. And then they took off in February of 21. And it looks like a growth stock chart breaking out of a base. Okay. So it's basing and then it breaks out. In my world, that's a trend. So we looked at that trend and we saw that the numbers shot up to a high in September 22 of 33.2 million. So 3.2 million additional Americans were disabled in a very short temporal, quick amount of time. And again, it didn't happen in 2020. It happened starting in February of 21. And it hit an all-time high in September 22. When we dig into the numbers, 1.7 million of those 3.2 are employed. So 50%. When we look at the general population, when we look at disability rate changes, the employed experienced 31% increase in their disability rate. The general population experienced an 8% increase in their disability rate. And then if you look at those not in labor force, those who quit or who were fired, their disability rate went up 4%. So those who I'm speculating didn't take the job or get fired because of it had better health outcomes than everybody else. And generally speaking, well, not generally, it's true that the employed of this country have a much lower disability rate than the general population. And why is that? Well, because they're showing up to work. Okay. You just the mere act of getting up every morning and going to work, you're not disabled. But all of a sudden, 1.7 million of these people just disappear from the labor force. And so that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics coupled with the insurance numbers show 2 different separate databases that something's gone on with the employed population in this country. They're having worse health outcomes, which generally just doesn't happen ever. So the question I had in the book is, I blame the vaccines. And if it's not the vaccines, what is it? Okay, there it is. There's the mic drop. And then if you want to dig a little deeper, because something you said, you look like you're a young man. You're millennial, right? How old are you, Tommy?
32.
You're 30. All right, you're millennial. You're right in the sweet spot. Most millennials thought like you before the mandates. they were lazy and they were healthy and they knew the thing didn't kill them. So why the
Yeah.
hell would I get this thing?
Why go
Right?
get in the car? Yeah.
Why go get in the car? Well, something strange happened in uh, the third quarter of 2021, August, September, October. The excess mortality for the group life policyholders was running around 30%, still horrendously awful. And then in a 3 short month time frame, it rose to 84%. So people just started dropping dead excessively in your age group, 25 through 44. Why did that happen? What was this temporal spike in the excess mortality? Well, I've heard it's suicides, Ed. Well, so there was a suicide pact in your age group, especially amongst those who had the best jobs. Okay, that makes no sense. Drug overdoses. Well, group life policyholders are um, working at the best firms, and to get a claim, you have to be employed. You can't be fired. So I found that fentanyl and heroin users tend not to keep jobs for very long, and they don't also, there wasn't a third quarter spike in those types of deaths. And then the most ridiculous one I heard is missed cancer screening appointments, which I guess they all clustered around the third quarter, especially amongst your age group. And that makes no sense because I don't know about you, Tommy. I'm 56, and I've never had one of these, appointments. I mean, I don't know what they are.
Me neither.
So,
I don't either.
did you miss your cancer screening appointment,
I,
Tommy?
I didn't know I was supposed to have one.
Yeah, I'm 56. I didn't know that either.
Okay.
Okay, so it's bunk, and it was an event. So there was an event. That event was, the Tommies and others millennials of the country being forced to do it temporally all at the same time. So there was a spike. That's evidence of a crime. I call it democide. Democide is the intentional or unintentional killing of its by government of its own citizens.
Yeah.
So now, that's the book, and the book pretty much proves definitively something's happened. I blame the vaccines. It's crickets in the mainstream media about this phenomenon. It's starting to come out. I feel like things are breaking, but again, they're going to. In my book, I conclude with this: the data I see, they see as well. The global health authorities see this. The fact that we're not talking about it at this point is a cover up and a crime. That's it. Mic drop. I don't care if it's incompetence or what have you. All right. So if you want to get into the speculation, this is my opinion because I don't know. It's an opinion. And but what I can say, it's true. People are dying excessively. People are getting disabled excessively. And if you have two brain cells you can rub together, it's in my opinion the vaccine. If they'll notice in the media, it's anything but the vaccine. We call that ABV.
Yeah.
ABV.
Eggs,
All
video
right.
games with
Yeah.
showering, using your right hand to apply soap,
Yeah.
gardening, falling asleep with
Gardening.
TV on.
Yeah. Well, my favorite one was that those of us unvaxxed who are scaring the daylights out of the vax and causing heart problems, that actually was a scientific, they tried to float that in a peer-reviewed paper somewhere. You can't make this up.
So
So,
we're wizards now. We can just
yeah,
cast.
yeah, we're casting spells, Tom.
All right. All right. All right.
So,
I mean, if they're trying to stroke my ego and tell me I have powers, then maybe it's working. Maybe it's a good tactic.
but so here's my opinion. So I got my Twitter account back recently. I was kicked off Twitter in June. I got it back under Elon. If you go to my Twitter profile at Dowd Edward, I have a pinned tweet, and it's a tweet thread that I wrote in early May of 2020. And it's in the form of a dystopian movie because I knew then if I tried to play this off as my opinion of what was going to happen, people would call me crazy. So I hid it under the auspices of a dystopian movie script. And dystopian movies start off with they set it up and then they launch into the current time frame. So my tweet thread was a launch of what we were going to see coming, and then I said the movie and the movie begins in 2022. It's called Freedom's Last Stand. So, what did I say in my tweet thread? I said that due to a sovereign global debt collapse that was coming, and central bankers and politicians spending too much money for decades and decades, COVID was used as cover to implement societal control, prevent protests, lock down, prevent travel, and that they would then introduce a vaccine and vaccine mandates. Remember, this is May of 2020. I was already saying there would be vaccines and there would be mandates. I was called a conspiracy theorist, obviously, and I also said that all opinions not tied to the narrative would be censored by global tech companies, governments, and media, which actually turned out to be 100% true. So I laid this at the feet of the central bankers and the politicians. Now, do I believe COVID was intentionally released? Don't know, don't care. But they used it as an excuse to cover up an economic global collapse, which was starting to happen, by the way, in 2019. There was a repo crisis. Overnight lending rates shot up in the fall of 2019, and the global economies were starting to fall. And COVID gave the central banks and governments of the world an excuse to print money like crazy and spend like crazy and hand it to individuals. So what did that do? That kicked the can down the road a couple more years, and here we are again with economic collapse. So I suspect it was used as a control system to manage an economic decline, and that the vaccines were going to lead to passports, which would lead to a digital ID, which would lead to central bank digital currency. The good news is it seems their plan's been thwarted somewhat. Did they intentionally make the vaccine to be this deadly and disabling? I don't know, but that's what they did. And in a very strange way, because they did, their plans, my opinion on the plans are being exposed. That's purely my opinion.
Sure.
But what I can report is it's true and it's happening. That's undeniable.
And it is important to decouple opinion and speculation from just the facts going on, right? We're never gonna have the memo of someone saying, and on this day we're gonna release. You're not gonna get it. You're gonna get pretty close to something, right? You're gonna get pretty close to, was there a probable conspiracy around John F. Kennedy? You might find a memo from LBJ. You might find a cable from Chief of CIA Counterintelligence James G. Sangleton. They're little pieces, but you're going to find the general outline of the T-Rex and maybe find its ribs. You're not going to find what it did when it was a baby. They do a good job, and it's not by accident that you can't find the motive, right? And it's
correct.
And you do have to, and if in the realm of rational discourse and critical thinking, as much as our own egos want to break the story and know what went on, the reality is you can't do that. You have to, if it's sexy, then you're probably doing it incorrectly. Like, you got to just look at the data and go, okay, what is happening? What can we look at historically? We know bioweapons are something that militaries have been looking at since World War II. Shiro Ishii in Unit 731, as well as in Germany, Dr. Kurt Bloma, Walter Schreiber, the chemist Otto Ambros. We know that's a thing. I've interviewed Dr. Ken Alabek, who is the head of the Soviet Union bioweapon program, who defected to the United States in 1991, I think. I've interviewed Dr. Stephen Hatfield and Dr. Merrill Nass, who both worked with anthrax. Like, okay, so you can look at that. All right, we know that that's a thing. We know that they like the idea of corralling everyone into a digital world, right? You can monitor everyone. You don't need there is no dystopian where they're putting the chip in your body. You got a phone. It's constantly pinging your coordinates. It's constantly, they can look at your face and use facial recognition whenever they want. Use your thumbprint for things. That's very clearly they do like the idea of us being corralled and tracked at all times. All these things kind of start to build the outline of something. You're never actually going to find the memo. They're not that dumb. They might be cocky, they might be arrogant. They're not dumb enough to say, and in 2020 we're doing this. So it is very important to remove just our own speculation about it on intent. You just have to look
Correct.
at what is happening.
Let me give an example of what I did my whole career. My career was to get to the truth before the truth was in the memo, right?
Yeah.
The memo, let's call the memo in financial world, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times reports a company's fraudulent. By the time they report it, stock is zero, right?
Yeah.
So I got to be ahead of those clowns, right? So I used to, do pattern recognition, get imperfect information, read people's body language, watch what they say, not what they do, and watch what they do, not what they say. And let me tell you two things I saw in 2020 that were interesting to me, and 2020 and 2021. In on May 3rd of no April 3rd of 2020, right after the lockdowns, a Federal Reserve President, James Bullard, goes on Face the Nation. And the question that's asked of him by the woman that's interviewing him is, how are we going to reopen the economy with everyone afraid and dying? He said, oh, there's good news on that front. We have technology now that can enable testing, and we could get immunity badges for everyone. Okay, so when I heard immunity badge, I thought vaccine passport. Then he said, we also have this great new surveillance technology that can monitor this. So what in God's name is a Federal Reserve president speaking on a public health issue? Seriously.
Yeah.
What? So they memory hold that because that didn't fly over well early on, and no one from the Fed spoke on this ever again. But in 2021, this Jabba the Hutt-looking character, I forget his name, from the BLS, which is the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, is the central bank of the central banks.
Yeah.
He's in Europe. He gets up there and he starts opining on the central bank digital currency, and he tells you that it would be a great way to control society because we can get deep into everything. And basically, what he means is if they want to control the amount of meat you eat, they can, because
Was
you
he
go into
twiddling his mustache?
yeah. I mean, Jabba the Hutt was actually better looking than him.
Yeah. I mean, when they say that stuff, you're almost just like, do they know like the horns are coming out? It's so sorry to interrupt, but it is just so in your face. And they just throw it out there that, it's not even like, oh, it's a green solution. Instead of they're just straight up like, yeah, so we could lock down the oppressors and just like quoting Goebbels, we could just denounce the pacifists. And you're like, what?
Yeah, no, I mean, so so there's an analyst mosaic that would suggest, from what I've seen, that there was a conspiracy of interest. Central bankers and politicians wanted to blame somebody else or something else for a collapse. So if you're a central banker or a politician that created all this debt, wouldn't it be better to blame a virus? That's number one. The tech people, again, I don't think there was like, a smoking gun memo where the six fat dudes smoking cigars and scotch came up with this plan. I call it a conspiracy of interest. There were people that saw opportunities to make money. The tech people were going to make money from all the surveillance products and companies that would launch. The healthcare system was going to make money from selling a vaccine. So Pfizer was on board. And then the media got money from Pfizer and the government to control the narrative. So everybody made money. Yeah. So, it's a conspiracy of interests.
Yeah. And you're, again, it's not like Bill Hicks, a comedian, always said. He's like, right when you get inaugurated, after they do the inauguration, they bring you to a dark room where there's 12 industrialist capitalist fucks, excuse my French, smoking cigars, and they pull down they go, roll the film. And a projector comes down and they show you an angle of Kennedy's head getting domed from a different angle. That's not the Zapruder film. And it looks eerily like the grassy knoll. And then the projector goes back up and they say, any questions? And you go, what's my agenda? I don't think it's that, as funny as that is and as simple as it is. I don't think it's that. I think it tends to be what you said, a conspiracy of interest. It's a big wave and a bunch of surfers are catching it. It doesn't mean that the surfers have wave creating technology. It just means that they're all out for a wave. And it's, in a weird way, it's almost not as satisfying as an answer, because the real scariness is that it's chaos and that there wasn't, a couple guys in cloaks who said release the COVID. It was probably something, and it's a conspiracy of interest. You got big pharma going, we're going to make money. You got big tech going, hey, we're going to snuggle up even more with the security state. They're going to say, jump, and we're going to say how high. There's a reason why they're not enforcing anti-monopoly laws on them. And it's, hey, you scratch our backs, and because the government could break up big tech tomorrow, but
absolutely,
there's a reason for it. Don't, it's sure. Not because it's not because they forgot there's monopoly laws. No, there's a reason. And then, yeah, and then you also have a bunch of bankers. Yeah, we've been printing money. We've been on a decade-long expansion since 2008, and it's coming back down. Well, why not blame a virus? It's a conspiracy of interest, and a bunch of people just lined up and said, we all want this to happen.
Yeah, the intent of do they intend to make this vaccine as deadly and
And that's the
disabling as it
question.
is? I don't know.
Yeah,
That we can investigate that. What I do know is it looks like the clinical trial, uh, in my humble opinion, the clinical trials were fraudulent. They just caked and
sure.
baked the data, because the adverse events are so horrendous in the clinical trial. In fact, we're working, my team and I, my PhD physicist, finance technologies, and myself are working on a new report we're going to put out in the next week or two that highlights a statistical link between the adverse events seen in the clinical Pfizer trial and the real world adverse events we're seeing in disabilities.
Mm.
We're gonna show there is a causation or a correlation, but and again, people say causation's not correlation, but again, there's so many smoking guns and so many different data sets. At the very least, the vaccine makers need to prove to me and to, I think, the world that they're safe at this point.
Yeah.
It's not the onus isn't on us to prove it. It's on them now. So we're going to demand that they do new clinical trials and or we do start doing autopsies on these people who die. And if that's not done, then it should be mass noncompliance.
Yeah. And yeah, you almost gotta wonder if they didn't mean to make them this this dangerous, this deadly, but the fact that they are almost plays into their hand because it makes inquisitive minds like you or myself or anyone, we're kind of gaslighting ourselves, right? Because the majority of people go, it's got to be intentional. If everything else was intentional, and you look at the war games and spars, and you had digital currencies and central bank digital currencies and online surveillance and the rollout, and it's a DARPA program, and then anytime you bring it up, I got banned in August 2021 from YouTube for interviewing Dr. Malone and Dr. McCullough. Then you have people like me who start screaming about this is coordinated. It might play into their hand to just we're kind of ostracizing anyone with a critical thinking mind. And we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. And they probably love that.
Well, look, what the reason why I left out the who and the why in the
Yeah.
book is because people's worldview, you can't assault their worldview, but what you can do is say it's true, it's happening.
Yeah.
And then once you get enough people to know that they were maybe intentionally or unintentionally poisoned, things change. Right now, most people don't know what the hell's going on. And so my goal has been to change your marginal mind. And then once this is exposed for what it is, that we need to pull the vaccines, then let the investigations begin, the grand juries, the state's attorney general. I mean, that's way above my pay grade. And I'm sure they're going to find lots of stuff that went wrong and a lot of cover up. At this point, we definitely know it's a cover up and negligence. Whether this was a colossal mistake, we need to find out whether there was a mistake, which doesn't matter at this point. It's now, I don't care, incompetence doesn't get you off. Or was it intentional? And that's again above my pay grade. But what I can tell you is it's a cover up at this point. They see what we see.
Yeah. And that is kind of another important distinction is like sometimes intelligence agencies do cover things up, not because it's a bunch of fat guys drinking scotch and smoking cigars. It's because they're guys like you and I, and they have a job and they go, oh shit, I cannot believe that guy who we were hoping to turn into an informant ended up bombing this place. And they go, oh God. Yeah, they cover it up the same way, your mom's like, did you get home by curfew last night? You're like, yeah, I got home by curfew. It's not because there's a big conspiracy. You just don't want your dad to kick your ass. Like sometimes it is
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Basically, they screwed up so bad. They're like, rut row, we got to cover this up. Because the implications of how bad of a screw up it is are, I mean, it's stark, and people are going to go to jail no matter what at this point because cover up is a crime,
Yeah.
and they're killing people. Um, if they know what we know, which they do, they're needlessly allowing other people to continue going along as if this thing is safe and effective. We all know it's not effective at this point, so that's why I'm sad about. I call them the branch COVIDians. The COVIDians. They're religious about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you would take a product that doesn't work. That's the definition of insanity. You take, and I guess they're taking it because they're being told it prevents serious hospitalization. By the way, there's no peer-reviewed study on that. That's gobbledygook. That's not a real thing. That's just a
Yeah.
marketing point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's also challenges the worldview. And it's not, and
Yeah,
I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, No one wants to think that the CDC and the FDA are bought off. No one wants to think that these are totally captured institutions. I mean, there is comfort in thinking that there is good people somewhere, right? No one likes having that veil kind of pulled back. It's the same veil that gets pulled back when you grow up and you realize that Santa's not real and that your parents are just people. Right? It's not, I get it. It's not fun. You want to be warm and in the womb and taken care of. It's kind of but it's a shitty realization that, yeah, the same corporations that everyone was occupying Wall Street 10 years ago are now being defended, and they're hiding behind the cloak of trust the science. And if you question it, you're a heathen. And I get it. It's not, and it's also, no one wants to feel duped. No one likes getting cheated on. And you look back a year and you realize you're the only one who didn't know you're getting cheated on. It's a shitty feeling. You look like a clown. You look like a clown at best and an idiot at worst. I mean, if you're a functioning adult with a nice job and kids and you're a respected member of your community, you don't want to feel duped that you took something that doesn't work. And at worst is, gonna put a 2 foot long blood clot in your body. It's not a fun feeling. And so they're evil, but they're genius, and that they're weaponizing our own egos against us. No one wants to. Is it the Mark Twain quote? Easier to fool a man than convince a man he's been fooled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Or Carl Sagan. It's easier to bamboozle than because nobody wants to admit that the bamboozle took place.
Yeah. One of the things people ask me about, Ed, why don't people see the data as you presented? I go, well,
They did.
I saw this all the time on Wall Street, and my ethics professor in business school said something to me that stuck my whole career. He said, "You can't rationalize facts to someone whose position is based on emotion."
Mm.
And what is emotion? Emotion is a number of different things, ego being one of them. And on Wall Street, I would watch very smart people, supposedly intelligent, hold stocks all the way to zero because they were talking to the CEO, trusting the CEO, and not understanding that the information was coming out that they were wrong. So they would keep buying the stock all the way down because their ego was so invested in their losing position that you couldn't rationalize facts to them. And this is the same thing with the vaccine, the sunk cost fallacy. A lot of people took it. They were very virtuous about it. Their ego was invested. They had a lot of fun telling us we were evil, awful people. And now they're being told that not only is it not effective, it may not be safe. And oh, by the way, you were unintentionally chastised. They can't let that go. So it's cognitive dissonance. So there's a lot of people trapped in that. The good news is most people didn't give a rat's ass. A lot of people took it because they had to keep their job.
Yeah.
And they weren't heavily invested in the psychology. So those are the people I'm trying to reach, so that we can turn the tide around here and at least admit the vaccines are doing something. If it's not the vaccines, it's even. I'd like to know what it is, because that's even scarier. If it's not the vaccines, what is it that's attacking the employed of the country, right? Um,
That's an even wilder proposition. It's
yeah.
like, what if it's really not? Like,
What if it's not? Then what is it?
then what? I mean, is this a cover? Are we in some high tech war with China? We're using directed energy weapons at each other, blowing up hard. I mean, if we're just gonna don, tinfoil hat. I mean, Havana syndrome, right? All the CIA agents at U.S. embassies reporting like, headaches and migraines, and we're kind of admitting that we have the same active denial like technologies. I mean, what's going on? Is there something actually insane going on? And this is around the time that most people exit out of the interview as I'm bringing up directed energy weapons or something. But like, but the point is like, are we gonna be at a point where we're gonna look back and go, remember the good old days when we thought it was the vaccine? Like that's even more
Well,
terrifying.
right. But what's funny is I say, if it's not the vaccine, what is it? There's
Yeah.
crickets on that front. So what I find curious, Tommy, is that no one wants to even talk about my data. I
Yeah.
mean, I got a book out. It's selling like hotcakes. No mainstream media person wants to talk to me for the most part.
Yeah.
No one. I saw Senator Ron Johnson. The book is being handed out to congressmen and senators as I speak, by other people. No one wants to talk to me. So uh, it is true that this is happening, but the fact no one wants to talk to me, I find curious, and that's why I think it's the vaccine, because it's that. Now, if it's not the vaccine, as you and I just speculated, that would be wild. I'm
I
100
don't
percent
even.
convinced. I'm 100% convinced it's the
Yeah.
vaccine. But if I'm wrong, I'll pull a 180, Tommy. But
Yeah,
right
sure.
now, you know,
Yeah, I have no interest. I have no vested interest in it being the vaccine. There's
neither
no
do
like
I.
I don't. But truly, you're one of like 5 people I know, other than myself, who hasn't gotten the vaccine, which then implies that everyone I know and love has it. No part of me is like, "Ha! I told you it was a bioweapon." Like, what? Like, congratulations, your family's gonna die. Like, there's no like touchdown dance.
Yeah, no, I did. I put out a tweet yesterday because there's a lot of, Scott Adams and a bunch of people are coming out saying, oh, the anti-vaxxers, which I'm not, but they say anti-vaxxers won. There's no winning here, Tommy. I
There's
mean, like
none.
you said,
Yeah,
I know lots of people who got vaxxed, including some people in my family. So there's no winners. This is
yeah,
not like, see, I told you so.
yeah,
What I want to do is let's admit there's a problem. Let's pull the vaccines and let's start protocols to detoxify the human body of this crap, which there
yeah.
are. That's the hope is. The good news is there are doctors from the frontline doctors movement that are working on vaccine injuries and detoxification protocols. And this, again, I'm going to name a website that I'm not affiliated with. I'm
Sure.
not grifting here. It's FLCCC.
Oh yeah,
Uh, they
had
got
on most of
stuff.
those guys. Yeah, Dr.
Yeah,
Merrick,
yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Corey.
So I want to give hope. Don't sit here and think you get some ticking time bomb, but stop taking boosters.
Yeah,
Look into taking control of your own health, and then if you buy my book, and it convinced you, give it to someone else. Just pass the book around. This is like we're in the Paul Revere stage. The death shots are coming. The death shots are coming, right? So unfortunately, it's word of mouth because no one wants to really talk to me other than intrepid podcasters like yourself. But uh, this is a serious thing, and I'm not excited to be reporting this. I'm not like, hey, I told you so.
yeah,
I'm here to just help.
yeah. Yeah, no one's standing at the base of the World Trade Center saying, "See, I told you there was going to be a second plane." What? There's no cheering, and it's also, I also just like, again, I have no vested interest. I just, if I'm wrong, all right, cool. I don't care. To me, it's the hairs kind of stand up when I started interviewing all these doctors. I mean, specifically Dr. Malone, and that's when I got banned, and that's when, I mean, almost like a biblical frothing at the mouth began. Just people attacking, like something's not right. Like the spidey sense goes off, and you're like, something's going, and that doesn't mean I know what it is. That doesn't mean that I have the antithesis to the thesis and go, it's a bioweapon, and no, I have no idea what it is. I've absolutely, maybe the sun is releasing some form of coronal mass ejection that we can't detect. I have no idea. It could be as alien to us as germ theory was to people before Joseph Lister. Where in the Civil War, if you got a wound, they would say pack it with dirt. Like
Yeah,
it could be that, it could be Wi-Fi to a caveman. It could be something that we're swimming in that we have no, who know, maybe there's some gravitational wave coming from the black hole at the center of the gap. I have no idea, and I don't care. But that all being said, it is happening at the same exact time that a never before tested on humans vaccines being rolled out. I'm just,
yeah. I mean, and we're not allowed to talk about it.
that too.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah.
one thing I want to say is too bad Dr. Malone couldn't
I
join us.
know.
He's a true hero. He was the man who came to Maui and elevated my voice. So I give him a lot of props. He's a true hero. Buy his book, The Lies My Government Told
It's a
Me. He
great
tells a
book.
great story. Get the book. And I have nothing but admiration for the man because I came from the belly of the beast. A lot of us are in the system and we couldn't see the pieces and parts. But once he saw what he saw, he spoke out.
Yeah.
And I haven't been at BlackRock for 12 years, and the firm was much. I don't know what the firm's turned into, but I'm just a guy that does my job, and my job is to inform people that the disabilities and all-cause mortality look like growth stock charts to me, and that's not good for the country.
No, no, not at all. And yeah, Dr. Malone's book is great, and so is Cause Unknown, and I'll put it in the description. And I don't get anything from it. Just go get it. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. You can get it on Kindle. I listen to it on Kindle. Kindle. You can get your phone to read it to you. It's actually a pretty short book, but yeah, it's the only thing I could think of that would maybe be hopeful, and we're kind of seeing it now with the with the splitting up, the early stages of the kind of wild west of new video platforms right now, namely Rumble. You have some other kind of outliers, BitChute, Odyssey, Brighteon, CloudHub. I can only hope that something kind of happens the same with insurance, and that there is a conspiracy of interests that happens to favor us. That there are right now, there's people that are like, hey, you don't like that they got rid of the dislike button? Come to our platform. And you don't like that they, banned comments? Well, come to our platform. I can only imagine that there is going to be an insurance company that it is in their financial interest to expose what's going on. I think that's the only thing that we really have to hope for, is that there's a financial interest in this. And that sounds dark, but I mean, with civilization moves west when they realize, hey, there's oil and we're going to build railroads. We
Yeah, money talks, BS walks. That's
exactly.
unfortunate,
Yeah.
And
It's
the good news is, Tommy, my partner, one of my partners, Josh Sterling, he's come public. He was hidden in the shadows helping me. He's working with ever growing number of executives from insurance companies to address this problem. So stay tuned. There does seem to be a slow awakening amongst the insurance executives. Something might be going on. So there's hope there. There's also hope in more and more people are realizing this thing doesn't work. More and more people are becoming aware that health issues seem to be on the rise. So I think this thing's going to break sometime this year. That's my goal and my hope. And then we can figure out what happened, who, and the why. But the goal is to save lives. I know you've been trying to do it. I've been trying to do it.
it's and that's kind of, and we got about 10 minutes left, and that's, I think, the point we need to press home on is there's no cheerleading, there's no I told you so. I was just at a funeral 2 days ago, completely not related to any vaccine, something else. But you go to that, and that's a very real thing. There's not a dry eye there. You see all the brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. I'm just a friend of a friend. But that's a very real thing. It's not just a death. It's real. There's a casket. There's a mass. There's a wake. That's every one of these deaths, every one of these screenshots in your book. That's what that is.
Yeah,
It's in 2014, I lost a sibling to suicide. It's still there. For the most part, it's not there anymore. But I mean, that pain is still there almost a decade later. Every one of these deaths we see, every one of these died suddenly, every one of these people just dropping, or the 2 foot long blood clot, those aren't just a statistic. Like that is a funeral. That's a bunch of people flying to a city, get in your suit, you're tired, you had a red-eye flight, you show up, you see the person, they're crying, you hug them, and those are all very real events. And then everyone goes away, and then the 6 months anniversary, and then the first Christmas without the person, and then the first birthday, and if you're married, it's the first anniversary without them. Those are they're not just a death. It exists beyond the screen. It's not just black and white pixels. It's as real as you can get.
yeah.
And
In the book, that's exactly. I try to show all those faces to show that there is reality to this, and because a lot of my work is metadata, like you said,
sure,
it's in a spreadsheet, and that's why I wanted to highlight the sudden athletic deaths, which are off the charts compared to what they were previously. That's at this point, I don't need to argue that it just is.
yeah, and the thing is, and it's not, putting ourselves on some grandstand, but if you can get this message out, whether it's us doing a podcast that, I don't know, maybe 10 people listen to, maybe 10,000 people listen to, and maybe 1% of those people tell someone else, and there's a 1% chance they don't get a booster that would have a 1% chance of it. That's real. That's very
Yeah,
real. And there's right, there's in was it in ethics, it's the sin of commission and the sin of omission. The sin of commission is doing something. The sin of commission is, robbing someone. The sin of omission is seeing someone get robbed and not calling the cops. If you see something
right.
and it's not fun, and yeah, it's going to tank your podcast, you're going to get kicked off YouTube. But if you see something in your heart of hearts and in your rational mind, you're putting two and two together and getting four, and you're going, this isn't, you have to speak. It is, at the very least, you have to say something. And
Yeah,
that's
I
just,
agree. It's interesting when Steve Kirsch and Malone came, when I met them
yeah,
in October of 2021, Kirsch was asked the question, hey, you lost your company, you've lost a lot of friends, this has financially hurt you. Would you do this again if you had it, if you knew what was going to happen? And he said, and I quote, I would do it again just to save one life.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a
One.
it's a real thing. It's
Yeah.
a it's a real thing. Losing someone sucks. Yeah, I mean, old people die. I get that. Losing someone sucks. It doesn't just, oh, the funeral's sad. I mean, I don't think it was until 6 or 7 years after my brother died that like I actually started to think of him and laugh instead of cry. And that's
Right.
one person in one family. Like,
Right.
and if we're wrong, we're wrong. I mean, whatever. I have no ego attached to it. All right,
If we're
whatever.
wrong, they can laugh at us. If we're
Yeah,
right, they
go
can
for it.
save a life.
If we're
Yeah.
wrong, go for it. If we're wrong, you have endless material of this podcast. You can use deep fake and put clown makeup on it. Go for it. I don't care. What do I care? All right, I'm wrong. My bad. But if you are right, if we are right, then it is an obligation.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's that crazy. So, but coming up on an hour, I said I'd only keep you for an hour. So I'll let you go. It's sad that Dr. Malone couldn't join us. We'll have to wrangle him on here with us another time. But I will put your Twitter on in the description. I've already put your book in the description. And yeah, closing thoughts.
Yeah. This is just like the Paul Revere days. Just tell a person, show it, and let them think. Because what we do know at this point is it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you're not going to prevent them you're not going to by telling them not to get it. You're not going to prevent them from receiving COVID. Okay, because they're going to get it anyways.
Yeah.
So the safety signals are so bad that I believe that you should tell people to stop getting boosters at the very least.
And you could just join the dark wizarding side and scare people so badly that they have heart attacks. I mean, that's also a thing. You get a little wand and a cape, and at the very least, maybe not save a life. Maybe you're evil. You want to come join us, dark wizards, and cast heart attacks via podcasts. That's kind of badass too. So I don't know. Take your poison. But Mr. Ed Dad, thank you so much, sir. Your book, Cause Unknown, will be in the description. I'll put your Twitter in there. And yeah, go check out FLCCC. I've interviewed Dr. Paul Merrick, Dr. Pierre Corey, and several of the guys on there. And yeah, do the right thing. It's really that simple. So, Mr. Dowd, I'd love to have you on here another time. Maybe we can convince Dr. Malone to come on here. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, and great to be here, Tommy. And
Absolutely.
enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well, sir. Thank you so much. God bless everybody. Stay safe. Thank